Hey guys, it's Dustin. So today I want to talk about Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And I know a lot of students are starting to read this, which I'm encouraged by. If you saw my last video, I want everyone to read Romeo and Juliet, but I think students should be assigned comedies as well as the tragedies. And this one is Shakespeare's, I don't want to say ultimate comedy, because that's kind of a taste thing, but also it's not his last comedy. That's The Tempest. Anyway, it is his peak comedy before he really starts getting into the histories and he's already in the histories when he's writing it, but then he starts going into the heavier tragedies. For more of a timeline on that, you can check out my Romeo and Juliet video. I'll try to link it. So the title, Twelfth Night, what is it? It's the only Shakespeare play that has two titles, Twelfth Night or What You Will. And I'm going to get into to both of those. Now, Twelfth Night, of course, refers to the 12th day of Christmas, okay, like in the song. Now, in the liturgical year, you would celebrate Christmas. I mean, you'd have a fast up until Christmas, and then you'd have the whole Christmas season, which is Christmas to the Epiphany feast, is feasting. You're enjoying yourself. You're celebrating because Christmas, of course, is the birth of Christ. Epiphany is his epiphany, his showing to the Magi, the arrival of the Magi, which is Christ showing himself to the Gentiles. Now, during this time, people would have just been coming off sorry, it's kind of bobbing a little bit. People would have just been coming off the fast leading up to it. Now, anyone who engages in the liturgical year knows that everything moves between minor fasting to major fasting and then feasting. All right, times where you're actually not allowed to fast. And this would have been more of a community-wide thing. They certainly would have known this even after the shift in England from Catholicism to Anglican Protestantism. Shift there covering a lot of ground, but I don't have time to talk about it. Anyway, let's go to the other title of this before I get into why he calls it after a holiday. Because this is considered a holiday, just like in Christmas. The whole time was an unending. I mean, this is just about enough to get any kid or teenager to be like, wow, I want to start following liturgical year. They get whole 12 days of Christmas, like in that song. But the other title is What You Will. All right, let's look at that. Now, whatever you want. Whatever you want to do. Do what you want. All right? That's the theme of a feasting period. All right? We've just finished up the fast, so now we're going to stuff ourselves. And on the 12th night of it, that's the last day before you go back to the standard, okay, we're going to be more self-controlled, we're going to be self-reflective, and so we're not going to stuff ourselves. We're not going to be gluttons. Now, whether or not you should be a glutton in the feast, that's a different thing. All right? Although Christ does say, how can you fast while the bridegroom is with you? Anyway, but it's the spirit of, and not just this comedy, but all comedies, to have a sort of throwing caution to the wind in a way, although that often lands us in trouble, which we get into in this. But as far as calling it the 12th night, some people are like, oh, well, that just has nothing to do with the actual thing. For example, I recommend qualified recommendation, Asimov's Guide to Shakespeare. This has been a good resource to me with historical sources and explanations for certain references that I might not have gotten. Now, Asimov, I'm not a huge Asimov scholar. I've read and taught his stuff. I think, frankly, I don't think he's as smart as you think he is. All right, I think they were right to... in the iRobot movie, they shifted the value structure of the story. In the book, people are made fun of for fearing the robots. It's called the Frankenstein complex, and the whole book is about like, no, we should give control up to the robots because they'll be better humans than we are, which I think is a profound misunderstanding of the human person, as well as things like human rights and stuff like that. I mean, read Dostoevsky, read Notes from Underground. I mean, if we were to give up. If everything were to be perfect, we'd destroy it in 10 minutes just for something to do. Anyway, that's for another video. Anyway, all that aside, Asimov, he is a great sci-fi writer, but he also gets into the history of Shakespeare here. And again, qualified recommendation. All right. So here's what he has to say about Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night was in some ways the climax of the festive period. In connection with this, a lawyers' guild, seems to have commissioned Shakespeare in 1600 to write them an amusing play for Twelfth Night, 1601. He did so, and the play was called Twelfth Night, after the occasion, and not because of anything in the play itself. I would really disagree with that, because if you understand the whole idea of a feast and fast, it's that you're, especially in English history. I mean, if anyone who's read the Canterbury Tales knows that there's a real respect and regard for the physical body in English literature, especially pre-modern and modern, like Shakespeare would be. Like we're talking like Old English, Middle English, pre-modern, and then post-Renaissance modern, not 20th century modern. But anyone seeing, oh, this is about Twelfth Night, this is going to be a crazy play. All right, it's similar to my video on Othello, talking about how people would see the title and they would know that's about a guy being dragged to hell. Oh, this one they would have seen, ooh, this is about stuffing ourselves and pushing things to the limit. And Shakespeare gets into that. He tells us right from the beginning what the whole play is about. I love when he does this, and he does it more often than not. So the play opens with Orsino, which I love Orsino. I mean, I, of course, love him with an eye roll, right? We love the worst characters, right? But he was my first Shakespeare production. In my first Shakespeare play, I performed Orsino. And then later on, when I went to Oxford, I actually performed Sir Toby Belch, the drunk uncle, who is usually someone with a less or bigger than my thin frame would do it. But they liked the audition so much that they let me just drink on stage and all of that. Anyway, but Orsino, he opens it, if music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. 3 lines, and Shakespeare just gave us the whole theme of the play. If music, which is entertainment, appetite, it plays into that, but if music is the food, we're getting into food, of love, give me excess of it. Give me more than I need. Give me more than I should have, so that surfeiting, meaning getting sick from being so full, the appetite may sicken and so die. So we have this paradox of filling your desire so much that you get sick of it and you lean back to normal self-control. All right, that is a feast. That's how, at least in comic literature, like the Canterbury Tales, that's how you deal with things. It's not just asceticism of like, okay, I want to control myself. That's a part of the year, yeah. But this one, it's okay, I got to get ready for that, so I'm going to intentionally stuff myself until I get sick of it. And that happens through this play. I mean, every comic trope that Shakespeare had used beforehand, right? The long-lost sibling, the girl pretending to be a boy, the guy who starts getting attracted to the girl dressed as a boy, although I don't think that's what people tend to interpret it as. I think that's, his guts know she's a girl, despite what she's wearing. You can't fool that kind of thing. Anyway, the girl who falls in love with the girl thinking she's a boy, all that, although that kind of contradicts my last thing. But Olivia wanting to be wooed by insult, all right? If you're successfully being wooed by Cesario or Viola saying like, yeah, you're pretty if God did all, if that's not makeup, kind of thing, if it's all real. That kind of a jab, an insult actually attracts Olivia. So it's kind of reference to, or at least he's using aspects from Taming of the Shrew. So Shakespeare uses all of his comic tropes in here. And then you have the nobleman acting like an idiot. We're talking about Sir Toby Belch. All right, he's of course the Falstaffian, like the troublemaker extraordinaire character. And they do the practical joke on Malvolio. I mean, you have the uptight Puritan. The only time that Shakespeare presents a villain without really sympathizing with it. Oh, you could argue he sympathizes with it. I don't know. But the Puritans closed the theaters, so I don't think he's very much interested in giving them the time of the day. Anyway, but even the practical joke of making him go crazy, think he's crazy, Sir Toby's like, man, we kind of pushed this a little too far. He surfeits from his appetite. He did an excess of a practical joke, and the appetite dies at the end of the 4th act. Right? So the whole play is in the title, is in both titles. All right, do what you want, and then what you will. There's also, of course, a sexual element to that. Will being the slang for the part or whatever, but as well as his name, Shakespeare's. Yeah. Anyway, but the whole thing is about giving excess, all right? And everything in this play is pushed to the max. When students read this, I tell them, try to imagine how every moment would be funny and ironic. But there's also a darker element to this play, all right? Because Twelfth Night is about to end, and we're going to go back to regular life and the cold of winter. It doesn't stop being winter in early January. But also, there's a lot of tragic elements in here. It's not a tragic comedy, that's a different type of thing. But there are some, the rain, it raineth every day is the theme of this book, and it comes from the, notably from the clown, which, if you want a discussion about clowns, go and see my videos on Foolishness in Shakespeare. But remember, Shakespeare's writing this in about the same year that he's going to write Macbeth. He's smack dab in the middle of his heavier tragedies. And Macbeth, I should do a video on this. I've written about it for the Mallard and stuff. But Macbeth has one of the darkest jokes in any of his plays. When Duncan dies, what does Shakespeare do? He gives us a comic scene. What are you doing? But no, there's something about comedy that is inextricably linked with tragedy. Aristotle says that tragedy is higher than comedy, and I'm very loath to contradict Aristotle, right? I got him up behind me next to Plato, but there's a ruthlessness about comedy, and the more ruthless it is, the more respecting of an audience it is, the more it's able to stand us up. That's why Charles Dickens is so good in talking about, with kind of a wink and a sneer, the darkest elements of society, like children being mistreated and stuff, and he'll turn it into an ironic joke. All right, he's best when he is most ruthless. All right, that's something that Shakespeare has in these plays, and there's something about Twelfth Night that is really, he found the comedy of the play. If we're going to push comedy all the way, it is going to get dark, not light. And yet that's what makes it stronger and strengthening. That's what makes it so good. That's, again, why I think teenagers should be learning the comedies, not just because they're more fun, more openly fun, but they're encouraging, even in some of their darkest moments. So, but that's a discussion for another day. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. All right, thanks. Sorry I've been away. It's been a long summer. A lot of good things and stuff, and and honestly a lot of lazy things for me. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have fun. Any comments, any takes or ideas, feel free to put them down below. All right, see you guys next time.